Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 3, Drunk in Wild Songs. Chapter 273, Reveal. Located to the east of Guidal, Mozanchuan made its name from the three rivers stretching uninterruptedly into the desert, where several li of barren shores and the Gobi Desert lay, adorned only by swathes of desert poplar trees. It was already dark in Chu capital at this moment, but here, it was only at dusk. Xiao Qiye pillowed his head on both arms and watched the last glow of the sunset. The sky of Mozanchuan was so vast that if one were to lie on the sandy ground and watch for long, they would have the illusion of being embraced in heaven's arms. Like flowing syrup, the viscous glow of the sunset flooded over the earth. Meng landed beside Xiao Qiye and hopped onto his chest. Xiao Qiye had been holding a straw of grass in his mouth, which he spat out when he felt the weight on his chest as Meng stepped on him. "Hey," Xiao Qiye said, "you're so heavy, grr." Meng cocked its head and looked askance at him with the eye on one side. Xiao Qiye could only free an arm and ruffle Meng's feathers. He whistled at Lang Tao Shuijin, which was by the stream drinking water, and indicated for it to come over and take Meng away to play. Lang Tao Shuijin, however, trod on its front hooves and turned its ass around to continue drinking the water. The armored cavalry had been stationed here for a few days already. Lu Guangbai took off his helmet and patted off the sand all over him as he walked over. Commander-in-Chief Xiao, Lu Guangbai's neck was damp with sweat. He followed Xiao Qiye's gaze and looked to the west. "Laid back, aren't you?" "That, I'm not. I'm miserable deep down." As if that was very much the case, Xiao Qiye pointed to the west with the hand he used to stroke Meng. "My wife is over there at that end, his face awash in tears every day as he awaits my return home. Put it on the record." Lu Guangbai tossed the helmet to Chen Yang. "Go back and tell that to your household's prefectural lord, and we'll see exactly whose face it is that's awash in tears." Xiao Qiye waited for Lu Guangbai to sit down before asking. "What did the Mengchuo tribe say?" "Same old words." Lu Guangbai propped himself on his knees. "Bai'er is determined to betroth his daughter to you. If you don't want his daughter, then he will decline to form an alliance with the Libai armored cavalry. Bai'er, that old blockhead of a camel." Xiao Qiye sat up and some of the sand on his back slid off. He looked at Lu Guangbai. "He wants to give me his daughter because he's afraid that I'll cast him aside after he has served his purpose, so he wants to trap me with a woman. If I were really such a disloyal and unrighteous man, I'd still kill him even if he gives me his wife." Lu Guangbai pointed at Xiao Qiye and said, "You went and met him with this expression. Of course he's scared." Xiao Qiye's eyebrows lifted slightly. "It's not like I'm there to beg him. Keep on being hard-mouthed," Lu Guangbai said. "The territory of the Mengchuo tribe is right at the western desert entrance of Mozanchuan, blocking it. If we can't win over Bai'er before attacking Amu'er, we risk falling into an encirclement trap. Then you tell him," Xiao Qiye folded his arm, "that I have a ferocious tiger back at home. I am but a henpecked husband. He even has his daughter's dowry ready. He's just waiting for her to marry into your family and show proper respect to this eldest madam." So troubled was Lu Guangbai that he could not help but laugh in spite of himself. Everybody loves Xiao Xiyan. The son-in-law that Bai'er had set his heart on was Hassan, but Hassan insisted on marrying Duoerlin of the Hulu tribe, which led to animosity between him and the Mengchuo tribe. When Xiao Qiye came to discuss an alliance after Hassan's death in battle, Bai'er stood on the sand dunes and took note of Xiao Qiye's strapping tall height and distinguished air. What's more, Xiao Qiye was the alpha wolf of Libai who slew Hassan with his own hands, and so, Bai'er began to harbor the intent to marry his daughter to him. The Hulu tribe has already retreated to the banks of Lake Chidi, so why are they back again? "You killed Hassan," Lu Guangbai said. "His wife rode east on horseback and brought back the warriors of the Qiang tribe that you broke up and pleaded with her tribe's folk who had retreated back to Lake Chidi to help Amu'er again. Duo Erlin swore before the Hongying banner of the Great Desert that she will kill you. Xiao Qiye remembered the flower that had floated away with the water before Hassan died. Also, Lu Guangbai curbed his smile. Duo Erlin was already pregnant before she headed east. That's Hassan's posthumous child. Xiao Qiye secured his arm guard in silence. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The last light of the setting sun vanished, and a brief stillness materialized in the sky that had no sun and no moon. That smear of heavy blue enveloped the dome of heaven, and the cry of the falcon pierced through the banner. Long hair that fluttered in the wind spread under this blue sky as Duo Erlin supported her lower abdomen with her hands. Bayan covered Duo Erlin with thick clothing and persuaded, "The night is cold. You should go back." "My husband is in the west," Duo Erlin said softly with her head tilted high as she watched a goshawk fly across in the wind. "When will my heroic eagle return?" Bayan could not bear to see her like this and felt the urge to wipe his tears. "The wolves of Libay bit my elder brother to death, then bit my husband to death." Hatred settled in Duo Erlin's green eyes. "Bayan, he is here to kill my child." She covered her abdomen, took 2 steps back, and said, "I want to protect my child. The hero will not let Xiao Qiye hurt you." Bayan softened his voice. "Your father won't either. The desert will work together to protect you, because this is Hassan's child." "You're wrong, Bayan. Look at the desert with your wise eyes. There are already 3 tribes following his armored cavalry." Duo Erlin was almost shrinking into the white outer robe. Her lean chin lay concealed within, and tears pooled in her heavy-hearted eyes. In his quest for peace, Bayer could even give his own daughter away to our enemy. No one other than Hassan can protect me. Sadness flashed across Bayan's dark-skinned face. "I failed to accomplish what Hassan entrusted me with and was deceived by the Qiang tribe. I am Hassan's wise man, yet I did not let him get the glory he deserved. Now that Xiao Qiye has come to the desert, Duo Erlin, we will take our revenge." Bayan took down the dagger at the side of his waist and held it in his palm as he handed it to Duo Erlin. "I swear. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. To the wolf pup of my family, treat this letter as you would my person. The bed in Tse province has lain untouched in recent days. I've been staying in tents with the army, and sleep has proven elusive thus far." Xiao Qiye looked at the words by the campfire, the forlorn ache in his chest dissolving away into a bitter sweetness of knowing that he was being pined for. It was all this Xiao Xian's chest that Lanzhou slept on behind closed doors. Without him, Lanzhou would sleep poorly, no matter how good the bed was. Xiao Qiye picked up on horseback with his other hand and drank a mouthful, pouring that feeling onto his chest, lest he became too emotional. He continued reading as he drank. "Teacher left me a blade. Former minister, Xiao Chengbi, was killed in battle. Everything in Chu capital is in order and under control, so don't worry. An expedition afar is arduous, you must take care of yourself. Lang, if we can win this battle, we will never part again in the years to come. A warm spring bed awaits homecoming in winter. I shall sleep thinking of you." Xiao Qiye set down the wine bag and looked at the bottom, where Shenzhequan had drawn a fox with drooping ears and a tail with a brush. He could not help but smile in spite of himself. Lu Guangbai flung a sweet potato at Xiao Qiye, and Xiao Qiye caught it with a lightning move of his hand. "It's almost the 11th month." Lu Guangbai peeled the sweet potato and started eating it. "What do you have in mind for dealing with the Mengchuo tribe?" The position of the Mengchuo tribe was special. Its chieftain, Bayer, had batches of camels. If they were to throw in with Amuer, then Amuer's current food dilemma could be resolved. Horses from Libay or Qidong were in fact, not suitable for making long journeys in the desert. If Bayer could lead the Mengchuo tribe into throwing in with the Libay armored cavalry, it would prove not only beneficial to the transportation of military grains during the war but also prove advantageous to the mutual frontier trade in the future. Since he's afraid that I'd turn against him after the fact, Xiao Qiye opened up the bag that came along with the letter. It was all dried beef jerky inside. He tossed the bag with a lu on it to Lu Guangbai and continued, "I'll do just that." Lu Guangbai was already being polite, so Xiao Qiye had no need to continue keeping up with the courtesy. He had 90,000 armored cavalry, 10,000 imperial army, and 20,000 Bianjun commandery garrison troops. He did not come here to negotiate peace. He had already handed them the carrot from the Huiyan tribe. Continue putting on airs, and he was going to use the stick. Tell by air, Xiao Qiye popped the beef jerky into his mouth and said, "I'm in a hurry to go home for the new year. If he wants to sink with Amu air, I will send him on his way tonight." Chen Yang nodded to receive his order and called for someone to convey the message as he retreated. ******. There were no troops stationed in Dan City once the capital command troops withdrew. When the Dun province garrison troops entered the city, the entire city was dead silent. There were countless rumors of the prefectural lord of Zongbo, Shenzhequan, some fearsome and some respectable. Commoners converged in the city. Quite a number of them had also fled to Chu capital on the same night. Tantai, who was well aware of the need to appease the people. This time, he did not dare to be sloppy and gave strict instructions to the garrison troops to behave themselves. He had come to grief because of Lu Kong, and so, he specially led his brothers from the imperial army, neither disturbing the commoners at night nor alarming them during the day. Yao Wenyu, having spent nearly more than a month bent over the table, was taking a stroll near Dan City with Shenzhequan today. Looking at the mottled marks on the city wall, he said, "Dan City has had a close call. Luomu has already arrived in He province's territory with his garrison troops. Chu capital will be hard to attack from now on. I heard the news today that Qi Xiu sent 3 letters from home, urging Commander-in-Chief Qi, who is still at Tianfei Watchtower, to return home. Qi Xiu is paralyzed in bed and can't lead the troops." Shenzhequan basked in the sun. It was a rare sunny day today. All the men in their house cannot compare to Qi Ziyin. Even if he really wants to dismiss Qi Ziyin from her commander-in-chief position, he can't strip her of her commander-in-chief military power. Kedong's vital point lay in Qi Ziyin, so they had to be able to go for the jugular with a psychological attack when it came to Qi Xiu. Qi Xiu wavers between the noble clans and those of humble origins. As long as your lordship is willing to give him a promise, Yao, when you turn the wheelchair, the merit in assisting the new emperor in creating a new reign will far surpass the ability to protect the current emperor. They definitely had to make an issue of it. Xiao Changbi's mobilization of troops ended in defeat. Chu capital had long been thrown into turmoil. This was just great now. Li Jianting's legitimacy was in question, and so was Shenzhequan. Qi Xiu is experienced and he understands the stakes involved the best. If I speak of the merit in assisting the new emperor in creating a new reign now, he might not necessarily dare to agree. It was difficult to tell the state of Shenzhequan's injury from his straightened waist. Shueziaozuo wants Luomu. I'll give him to him. Chu capital wanted the game piece, Luomu. Shenzhequan would not begrudge the loss. The grains in Cha province were distributed by Shenzhequan and Caiu was eliminated by Shenzhequan, too. All the revitalization of the various trade that followed after was aided by Shenzhequan, too. Luomu ran so fast precisely because he could not pry Shenzhequan away from all of these, and since he had followed Caiu before, all those he could take away now were the former bandits. But I want Zhang Qingshan. Shenzhequan looked back. The only question is whether Shueziaozuo can bear to give him up. ******. Chu capital fell further into desolation. As the 11th month drew closer, the streets of the market became a lot more deserted. The news that the rebels had fought their way to Dan City had spread. If not for the presence of the capital command troops still stationed in the city, anarchy would have already broken out. Even so, the people still fretted with restlessness. Having already switched into a thicker robe, Kong Qiu said to Sen Yu before he entered the palace, the snow is going to fall early this year. Sen Yu raised his head to look at the sky. At that moment, he could not tell if Kong Qiu was talking about the sky or Great Zhou. He let out a sigh and raised his arm to urge, "Let's go." "I wrote Qi Xiu a letter." He had his son answer. Kong Qiu walked up the stairs. "He says that he is too ill to even get off the bed." "The aggravation of his illness is certainly very timely," Sen Yu scoffed while lifting the hem of his robe. Kong Qiu slowed down and said, "Qi Xiu is a sly old fox. Rather than say he trims his sail to the wind, one might as well say he's wisely playing it safe to save his skin. Even back at home, he knows very well that Qi Ziyan didn't deploy the troops, but he just has to wait for us to write to him before he starts putting on a show of cursing," he said with a sigh. "He's jacking up the price with us in a roundabout way. Just you watch. When Her Majesty really confers upon him what his heart desires," Sen Yu said, "he will then not dare to accept it. We still have to send someone with the gift of the gab over." Kong Qiu strode over the threshold. "I originally thought Chang Shen would do, but he isn't experienced enough to be able to hold down Qi Xiu. After going back and forth in choosing, Wang Xiao is still the most suitable choice." It was only when Sen Yu heard Zhang Qingshan's name that he remembered. Wang Xiao just sent a letter saying that his wife is pregnant. He probably won't make a long-distance journey at this time. There's no one else left in the imperial court. If he doesn't go, Kong Qiu raised a finger to point at the palace wall, "Shen Zequan will soon be here. I heard that Wang Xiao's mother highly values ties. If it really doesn't work, we will get in touch with the old madam. If that doesn't work, then we'll get Wang Xiao to bring his wife along." Zhang Qingshan's wife, Lady Lu, had only just gotten pregnant, and what's more, she was nursed back to fertile health by a wandering physician from the martial art fraternity and was being cherished at home. But he could not disobey the imperial court order. The journey was a long one to make, and he was initially unwilling to bring Lady Lu along and subject her to the hardship of traveling, but if he were to leave Lady Lu at home, he did not know what kind of grief his mother would give her. So, after thinking it through, he eventually decided to bring her along. The moment Zhang Qingshan set off, Ji Ran set out, too. Ding Tao brought Ji Ran to Kedong and paid a formal visit to Qi Ziyan, who had rushed home to receive a tongue lashing. His lordship said that he heard the old commander-in-chief and the main madam have been in ill health lately. Ding Tao bowed to Qi Ziyan. "His lordship has nothing to give, so he had me bring along his own physician to take a look at the old commander-in-chief and the main madam." Qi Ziyan saw Ji Ran looking all tranquil and at ease, not at all timid in the presence of others. His aura was special and he really had an ethereal air about him. Shen Zequan must really lack manpower. "Even you have stepped out to go on errands. Commander-in-Chief Qi doesn't know it, but I have been the second master's guard since a few years ago." Ding Tao let Ji Ran over before Qi Ziyan. "This is the venerable master Yideng's last disciple." Qi Ziyan was moved by the words Yideng. Seeing as Ji Ran was young, she said, "The old man has already retired for a rest today. I'll notify the rear courtyard in a while. Someone will naturally come to receive him." Ding Tao and Ji Ran bowed in unison. ******. The main madam is exceedingly intelligent. She is familiar with the accounts, and her mental arithmetic is outstanding." Yao Wenyu covered his lips and coughed twice. It would be best to have her discuss things with Zhang Qingshan. Shen Zequan was in the midst of reading Ji Qingqing's letter. On hearing that, he only asked Fei Sheng, "How long has Luo Mengzheng been gone for?" "Almost half a month," Fei Sheng answered. "Even if he's riding a tortoise, he should have reached Chu capital by now." Shen Zequan closed the letter. "If that random group wants to guard the city gate, then let them do as they wish. No one can say for sure whether they are brave men or boars lured by reward. Shinwei should also take a break in the next few days. Push them into too tight of a corner and they might be driven to take desperate measures." Shenzhen did not fear those 30,000 to 40,000 random crew of soldiers in Chu capital. Even if he fell short, he still had Xiao Jiming behind him to back him up. A 30,000 strong armored cavalry was enough to intimidate Chu capital. Shuiziaozuo was indeed formidable, but Shuiziaozuo did not have soldiers. Chu capital wanted to coerce Qizuyan into deploying troops, so Shenzhen would force down this blade that was Qizuyan. It did not matter if he could not use her, just let those 300,000 main forces remain in place as decorations. Chu capital could also forget about hoping that the Qidong garrison troop would be able to stride past Tianfei watchtower. For the sake of maintaining stability in the area, he even had Huo Lingyun placed there. Tao Ming has been eating and drinking well in Tse province. Now that he has grown some fat, he ought to start moving, too. The prefectural lord's folding fan tapped gently against the edge of the table. He is the prefectural prefect of a province, after all. He's as close as family to the people of Hubei province. The anarchy in Hubei province is intense. Give him a few thousand Tse province garrison troop soldiers and send him back to quell the unrest. If he does well, he will be handsomely rewarded in the future. If not, have him leave his entire family in Tse province for me to take care of. Shuiziaozuo wanted to cut off Shenzhen's He province, so Shenzhen would take away his Hubei province. Hubei province was close to Loxia Pass, which was in turn close to the city of Quan City, the native hometown of the Shui clan, the route of which formed an arc-shaped encirclement, just like the trade route between Hubei province, Cha province, and Tse province. Everyone, be it Shuiziaozuo or the emperor, had already exposed their weaknesses in the contention for supremacy. Had it been in the past, Shenzhen would definitely have nothing to worry about, but after Xiao Changbi's death, Feng Quan was akin to a thorn stuck in the most inconspicuous of spots. One that had already penetrated deeply. End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 3, Drunk in Wild Songs. Chapter 274, Unveil. The Mengchuo tribe's territory was close to the forest of desert poplar trees. From a distance, they looked like they lived in an inextinguishable bonfire in the desert. The desert poplar was their symbol. This was where the tributary of the Hashi River lay. They occupied the only water source of Mozanchuan. Further east along was the hinterland of the desert, dominated by sweltering heat. It was here that Baya, an obese man who had grown himself a grizzled goatee, hosted a feast for Xiao Qiye. He personally poured wine for Xiao Qiye and said, "I've heard of the legend of the wolf. Your armored cavalry is just as cold and grim as the severe frost stampeding through the Hashi sinkhole to crush Achi's elite scorpions." The open-air feast was bathed in moonlight. The nights of the desert were not at all black but a rich deep blue. Xiao Qiye sat here, different from the swift and brave men of Biancha. He had the wildness and frivolousness that hailed from Libei, one that was made all the more conspicuous after he removed his armor. Having received the Mengchuo tribe's praise, Xiao Qiye said, "I'm willing to form an alliance with the tribe to become brothers who can rely on each other, just like the Huiyan tribe. In that case, why don't we form a marriage alliance?" Baya looked at Xiao Qiye and sighed with emotions. "Hanjian Mountain produces fine men, and I know you people from Libei are all tough men. I really admire you, and my daughter truly wishes to marry you. If you are worried that your wife at home will not agree, then I am willing to give 500 camels to this main madam." The women of the 12 tribes controlled the tribe's supplies. In Baya's view, if Xiao Qiye's wife was a sensible person, then he should agree to this marriage and minimize the hassle imposed on his husband. Far away in Dan City, Shenzhen sneezed softly. Ji Gang, who was in the outer chamber holding the medicine in hand, shouted, "Chuan air, take your medicine on time. This weather changes on a whim. If you are not careful, you'll get a cough again." Xiao Qiye grasped the wine Baya toasted him. He had a great capacity for wine, drinking on horseback in small sips on the way, and he was unbeatable back at home. But now, he seemed to be drunk and did not look as severe as he had been the last time he came to discuss with Bayer. Bayer felt that this could be an opportunity to exploit. He raised an arm to motion for Xiao Qiye to look to his right, where his youngest daughter, whose face was covered with a thin layer of veil, sat with her head lowered as if she was shy. Confident that Great Zhou had no girls like this, Bayer said, "My Wei is very lovable and well behaved. She can take care of the main madam like a younger sister would." Upon hearing this, Lu Guangbai cast a glance at Xiao Qiye as he sliced the beef with a dagger. "Our pref main lady has no brothers at home, so I think it's good if there is really a younger sister in the picture." Following along Bayer's arm, Xiao Qiye looked over and the girl hung her head even lower. Bayer then said, "Wei, come over and toast a cup of wine to the chief wolf." Wei stood up. Intricate ornaments hung from her waist, tinkling as she walked, but Xiao Qiye's mind was already wandering. He remembered that he had also hung a silver bell on Lanzhou's ankle the one time he had taught Lanzhou a lesson while he was still in Dun province. It not only tinkled when it swung, there was also Lanzhou's moist, disorderly panting. Wei had already come before Xiao Qiye. She had an exotic fragrance on her, and as she leaned over, she revealed her fair neck. Lanzhou's neck was the most gorgeous when drenched in the rain, soaking in the water, and immersed in sweat. Its arch was exquisite, tilting up and hanging down in tandem with his body that was being held captive. Xiao Qiye missed Shenzhequan very much, and it was especially obvious at this one moment. Wei poured the wine to the brim and leaned over to offer it to Xiao Qiye. Her long lashes lifted, revealing her hatred when she looked at Xiao Qiye. The golden chain around her waist clattered as the young woman flipped out a dagger with her slender palm, and taking advantage of her movement as she made a toast and thrust it right at Xiao Qiye's throat. Chen Yang had yet to react to the sudden turn of events so close at hand, but Gu Jin had already heard something amiss. He strode a step out and involuntarily blurted out, "Second master." The golden goblet smashed onto the tabletop with a thud, splashing wine all over. Xiao Qiye did not even touch Wei as he used his arm guard to parry the dagger. The next moment, the short table overturned and Wei went rolling down. Her dagger that had already slipped from her hand landed between Xiao Qiye's palm. Before Bayer could snap back to his senses, Xiao Qiye stood up and suddenly nailed the dagger onto Bayer's table. Nearly stabbed in the fingers, Bayer was so startled that he turned pale from panic and fell paralyzed to his butt on the ground. Xiao Qiye wiped the wine off his arm guard. His eyes were sober as he said frostily, "I sincerely came here to befriend the Mengchuo tribe, but the Mengchuo tribe are hypocritical and malicious rats who spout honeyed words but hide swords behind their backs." The generals at the feast all jolted to their feet. The 3 tiers of armored cavalry within and outside all flashed their blades with a swoosh, filling the crimson desert polar forest with snow-white glints. The atmosphere took a sudden, hostile turn as tension crackled in the air. No. Bayer did not expect Wei to make such a rash assassination attempt. He hurriedly said, "This is by no means my intention. Please, Chief Wolf, do not be angry." He clambered up and said resentfully as he stomped his foot at Wei, "I raised you for over 10 years, and yet you made such a grave mistake." Wei's veil fell off. Propping herself up, she spat at Bayer. "You betrayed the hero and gave me to Hassan's mortal enemy. You are not worthy to be my father." Bayer flew into a rage, and without waiting for Wei to finish her words, he stepped forth to slap Wei so hard that she fell to the ground. In the Biancha tongue, he snapped, "Hold her down." Having said that, he turned around to plead with Xiao Qiye. "She has been bewitched by Amuir and has long since lost her mind. She cannot be considered to be my daughter. I'm willing to kill her for the chief wolf. Please do not take it out on the Mengchuo tribe." Xiao Qiye's expression did not change in the slightest. The Libe armored cavalry surrounded the Mengchuo tribe. Bayer's elites were all on the periphery. If they were to really start fighting, whatever little people he had would not be able to stop the assault of the completely geared up armored cavalry at all. Bayer was no longer in the position to negotiate further. All he could do was to draw out the saber of the guard beside him and raise it high against Wei. The silvery moon hung high in the sky, where a saker falcon of Mozanchuan circled alone. The towering branches of the desert poplar cut into the moon at an oblique angle, while the wind fluttered the Libay's wolf banner. Bayer held the saber up, unable to bring himself to strike. His goatee trembled for a moment, and under the sound of Wei's sobs, he flung down the saber and turned around to fall to his knees before Xiao Qiye. Xiao Qiye secured his arm guard tightly. Behind him, Chen Yang came over to put his overcoat on for him. Xiao Qiye lowered his eyes to look at Bayer, his hand on Longli blade beside his waist. "I only have this one daughter left." Tears streamed down Bayer's aged face. "I wanted to betroth her to the powerful Libay king of wolves because our Mengchuo tribe is always getting plundered by the other tribes all year round. Amuer is already old. Who can ensure our survival? Take back your 500 camels." Xiao Qiye turned around to leave. "Save them for the Mengchuo tribe's own mutual trade market use." Xiao Qiye walked a few steps, then turned his head aside to look at Wei. The night breeze swayed the little braid that had fallen to the side of Xiao Qiye's shoulder. He raised his hand to draw out the dagger and tossed it before Wei. "You are the one who handed me the lives of the entire Mengchuo tribe on a silver platter tonight." Wei's face turned ghastly white. The exotic fragrance on her had all dissipated. She covered her face and wept. Bayer prostrate over the ground and shouted, "The Mengchuo tribe is willing to follow the king of wolves to reign in the desert." Xiao Qiye whistled and men landed on his shoulder. He looked in front, where the entrance to Mozanchuan was already open. The narrow path that was paved with moonlight led to his destination. Behind him, the wolf banner of Libay replaced the eagle banner of the desert. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. "How did you guess that Wei was going to assassinate you?" Lu Guangbai asked as he left with Xiao Qiye. "You said Bayer wanted to marry her to Hassan." Xiao Qiye flipped onto the horse. As he pulled the reins of the horse, he paused for a moment. "My guess was that it was Wei's own wish. Bayer wanted so badly to marry her to me because she no longer had eyes for the boys in this desert and considered them beneath her notice. I even suspected that you were intoxicated." Lu Guangbai followed suit and got on his own horse. Gerger was on tenterhooks, fearing that you would lose your head. "Say, when I return and face his lordship, should I speak without reservation, or should I feign ignorance? I won't lose my head. Who else was there in this world who could ever compare to Shen Lanzhou?" Xiao Qiye turned his horse around, letting the wind dissipate the heat and diminishing the effect of the wine. He looked at Lu Guangbai and said solemnly, "The wine and scent don't work on me. I'm sober." Lu Guangbai saw him looking all serious and thorough in everything he did, so he believed it to be true. How was he to know that Xiao Qiye had his head full of immodest thoughts about Shen Lanzhou earlier? Xiao Qiye changed the subject. "With the Mengchuo tribe remaining here now, there's only the Hulu tribe left to the east of Mozanchuan to supply Amuer with grains. Duo Erlin brought back the remaining warriors of the Qiang tribe for Amuer, which shows that Amuer doesn't have many elites left. Hulu, Achi, Zwilai and Hassan Amuer's vanguard, raider, guard, and general were all killed in battle, and the 6 tribes in his hands were all on edge after Xiao Qiye began his advance east. The Mengchuo tribe was now willing to enter an alliance in order to preserve their lives, and Amuer's golden tent happened to be smack right in the hinterland of the desert. Xiao Qiye wanted the victor to be determined in one battle. After Hassan's death, the Biancha withdrew its troops. Going by Great Zhou's conventional practice, they would not pursue beyond the Hashi River's line of defense. But to Xiao Qiye, the lives of the others could perhaps be spared but not Amuer's. As the man in the desert who nearly became the great ruler of the 12 tribes, Amuir was a formidable and ambitious man who could fight for supremacy with Xiao Fangxiu. What made him even more dangerous than Hassan was that he also had the political means. He not only wanted to fight victorious battles, that was something he delegated to the others. He spent 20 years painstakingly bringing about the collapse of a dynasty. As long as he was given the opportunity to catch his breath and survive, he would have new plans and his methods would only become more sophisticated and difficult to detect. This man must die, or Xiao Qiye would not sleep easy at night. Amuir perched on his throne. His golden tent did not have the curtains closed, and the moonlight shone through the gap to illuminate the ground at his feet. He sat alone, gazing at the rolling sand dunes under the moon. Many years ago, Amuir said in a quiet voice, "I once led my troops deep into the enemy's territory and met Xiao Fangxiu at the foot of the Hanjian Mountains. At that time, he was still a nameless junior soldier. I regarded him as a lifelong adversary. I won against him many times before, and I've also lost to him many times." The aged wise man who had prayed for Hassan sat in the corner of Amuir's golden tent and dropped the withered branch in his hand onto the blanket before his knees. In a trembling voice, he slowly said, "You defeated him." In the glow of the moonlight, Amuir closed his eyes. There was no sign of his age to be seen on this face of his. He looked so dignified that it was as if he had just ascended to the throne. He said, "It was my son who killed him." "His son killed your son?" The wise man gasped laboriously as he prostrated over the woolen blanket. After spending a moment to catch his breath, he pushed again all those withered branches. "But you still have a grandson. Duo Erlin will bear Hassan a healthy and strong child. We have not lost this battle." Amuir held on to the armrests of his throne, looking like a beast trapped here. His eyes moved and eventually, he opened them to look at the unchanging sand dunes. "You told me the same thing too when I dispatched troops to Loxia Pass. We walked out of the desert, looking for land we could live and survive on. But all these years, the battles have not stopped, and the number of deaths has increased. Great Zhou is like a tree that has already decayed, but the favor of the heavenly God has yet to tilt towards us. Libe lost Xiao Fangxiu, but very quickly, they obtained a new king of wolves. I hear him pounding his battle drums as he walks towards my golden tent. He is far younger and stronger than Xiao Fangxiu. You are the last morning light that the God bestowed upon the desert," the wise man said staunchly as he grasped up those withered branches. "I shall watch you leave this wolf far behind in the dust." Amuir left his throne. He stood up, following the trail of the moon as he said, "It's time to get the scorpions to move." The clothes and hat official secured the cotton-padded coat and hat for Feng Quan and took down a piece of prepared paper from the assembled bamboo. Feng Quan wiped his hand with the paper and listened as the other person spoke. The clothes and hat official moved deftly, partially concealed in the darkness as he said, "Zongbo must be defeated before the gate of Chu capital. It's only by killing Shenzhequan and allowing the dynasty to continue lingering on the verge of death can the sun far in the east rise as usual. Shenzhequan has repeatedly been through danger many times in Dun province and Duan province." Feng Quan watched the clothes and hat official hung the clothes up to scent and said quietly, "You people have had countless opportunities to kill him, but you didn't do so. He is far tougher than expected." The clothes and hat official put away the shoes for Feng Quan. He was on his knees on the ground, but he raised his eyes to stare at Feng Quan as he said, "You knew that already?" Feng Quan bent over and enunciated, word for word, "You people are the useless ones." The candle of the lamp burned quietly as momentary silence descended upon the duty room. "I already said 2 years back not to act presumptuously, but you people still spread the epidemic into Chu capital and gave Shenzhequan the opportunity to be promoted." Feng Quan's voice was gloomy. "Amuir thinks he has the whole picture in sight, but in truth, he can't see a thing." The clothes and hat official suddenly straightened up and raised a hand to slap Feng Quan on the leg, holding a long, thin ear pick in his palm. That sharp, Unexpected object pressed against Feng Quan's leg, making it clear that it could also deal a fatal blow when the time called for it. Calm down. The clothes and hat official had pupils that leaned towards brown. That epidemic also gave Muro the opportunity. Shuiziaozuo trusts you so much precisely because you were able to show your loyalty at that time. You are already standing in the center right now, and the Emperor of Great Zhou is well within your reach. After this battle, you will be free. Feng Quan's overly cold and detached eyes looked at the clothes and hat official, not believing a single word of his lie. Ever since the day he left Chu capital, he had been loaded into a box, destined to never escape for the rest of his life. Your foolish father is dead. You originally could have stopped him but you didn't. The clothes and hat official kept away the earpick. I didn't tell anyone about this. Do you understand? Feng Quan's pale face looked a little sickly in the shadow of the lamp. He wasn't a scorpion. No one could manipulate him. He had long gone crazy, willing as he was to die for others. I was merely sending him on his way. You let him take away the firearms. Since he wanted to die, Feng Quan's eyelids suddenly twitched, but without a change in his expression, he brushed aside the clothes and hat official's hand and continued, then giving him that batch of fake goods worked out just fine, didn't it? You're right. Xiao Changbi was a lunatic. He kept vigil at the temple of penitence day and night, and burned incense at home to pray to Buddha to beg for forgiveness. To let him die is to fulfill his wish. You are a filial son. The clothes and hat official tidied up his robe and stood up. Time for you to take your medicine. End chapter.